Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. God gave to King David an incredible promise in 2 Samuel chapter 7. God promised David that he would have a descendant of his on the throne in Israel forever, that it would be everlasting. And with that, God promised a peace that would last. Now, when the Lord made that promise, he acknowledged to David that peace had been fleeting, that while God had provided leaders to be raised up to defend God's people, to fight their battles and to win victories, and then to lead them in following after God, this had produced only periods of peace and rest. Where when we look at the book of Judges, we see God raising up various leaders, and there are notations about how many years they had spent oppressed, how many years they had lived embattled with some neighbor, and how many years under that leader they had experienced rest and peace. But it's like that, a cycle that goes on. And even with David, he has battled throughout most of his life with the enemies of God's people. And there is now a time of relative peace, but it's not one that will last. So when God is making his promise to David about a ruler who would follow him, a descendant who would be on his throne forever and who would bring an everlasting peace for God's people, he has to be talking about someone greater than just another earthly leader, just someone who would be raised up for a generation and then fall. No, this has to be referring to an everlasting king and ruler, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the mighty God, Isaiah called it. And so that we find ourselves looking for that, longing even in our own hearts to know that kind of peace. Because in fact, we know in our daily lives that peace is a very fleeting commodity. Just in our daily struggles, we work and struggle financially, we get all of our bills paid, and then the next bill arrives, or the next crisis occurs that we're not prepared for, and all of a sudden we're in the hole again. We go through struggles with people where you know that you're getting along with them right now, but you're waiting for the next time that something goes sideways and you're in conflict again. Someone in your family, someone at work, a kid at school. And so that even when we get those times whenever, hey, things are going along pretty smoothly, we're guarded, we're waiting, we're anticipating that this isn't going to last. And even in our spiritual struggles, we battle with sin in our lives, and we look to God to find help and strength, and we find that deliverance. We break through. We finally get to a point where we can say that sin that had dominated my life for so long, it's like I'm living free. I'm finally gotten the upper hand. And then comes that other day when we stumble again, when we find ourselves again in a battle inside with sin and conflict and looking to God to say, please deliver me. Jesus promised us that he is, in fact, that Prince of Peace, that the one who would bring us an everlasting peace in our lives. In Matthew 11, Jesus invited us when we're weary and heavy laden to come to him, and that he would give us peace and rest for our souls. And this seems fleeting, though, in these days, and yet he's promised us a peace that passes understanding, that would keep our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus, even in the midst of all of these struggles and difficulties, and that would in fact build for us a confidence that when he says, I have an everlasting kingdom, and I'm going and preparing a place for you, and I'm going to come and get you, that every day that we see his promise in our life realized, freedom found, rest and peace, instead of living under this dreadful anticipation of the next problem, we live with an anticipation of the final promise being fulfilled, of his deliverance that is an everlasting gift. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.